in life against Efes. Olympiacos run riot against Baskonia, and Fenerbahce are back on top. All that plus the miracle over Doncic on Sweet 16. Tune in.
Hello and welcome to the 10th episode of Sweet 16, an open look on EuroLeague basketball. As always, I'm Moshe from Team Scout, and with me my great friends and co-hosts Aris and Emmett. How are you guys?
Greetings from Dublin here. Emmett, my room's a bit of a mess, and believe me, my computer's worse, but looking forward to some big EuroLeague action.
Everything is great here in Athens, where we are also waiting for this week with the double headers all over Europe.
So, Emmett, we've had a great week. Also, Aris would agree with me, I think, where surprises were scarce, but winning by a lot of points was almost plenty.
Yeah, we had some really fun games. Like, I think Barca Efes took a while to get going. We're going to discuss it in a bit. And then you had a couple of one-sided ones. Everybody knows what they were: Oli and Baskonia and Fener and Panathinaikos. And then, of course, there was one you saw, back in your hometown there. Maccabi Zvezda was a bit of a crazy one. I'm sure we're going to get into that. So, wouldn't be surprised if it's similar this week, but also wouldn't be surprised if it's in no way like last week as well with either round.
So let's start with the 4-minute warning.
4 minutes to get through all the action that just happened in EuroLeague. It's the 4-minute warning. And as ever, the 4-minute warning isn't quite 4 minutes, but, it's that time of season where there's too much to talk about, folks. So maybe let's call it the 4x4 minute warning in this case. So Barcelona and Efes played in a game which was absolutely must-win for Barca and not far off that for Efes. Barca came out with a W after what we described in Ball in Europe as a hot mess. Essentially, a lot of bad basketball early that turned into a pretty exciting game, and no small amount of that went down to Vitor Favorani, who came into the game. People knew that Vitor, has the quality. He played NBA just 2 years ago, but questions obviously over the durability of his knees. In this game, there weren't really any questions. He was just kicking ass, taking names.
Well, he sure was, and it wasn't just doing what he did. It was against who he did it, because Brian Dunstan is not your average defender. He's one of the best defenders that was in the EuroLeague for past years. And, he's doing a great job. And when Favorani uses his amazing offensive talent, he got to the NBA for a reason. So being able to contribute to Barcelona and, having a dreamy, without a doubt, debut with Barcelona is something that was great. Aris, how did you see Favorani's ability? I'll give you a spoiler alert. My best moment from him was him chasing down Jason Granger, blocking him. It was something that was amazing for me anyway.
First of all, it was great news for Barcelona because they needed a big man and they finally found him, and probably many didn't expect that Faverani will be such a factor in such a short time. On the other hand, Faverani, since returning to Spain for Murcia, was a force in the paint. Unfortunately, things didn't work out for him in the NBA and also in Maccabi. He had knee issues, but we have to admit that he demonstrated amazing abilities. He's not so athletic like Joe Dorsey, but he is much more dangerous when he gets the ball in the offense. And also he was pretty active in defense.
Well, with Vitor, I remember him playing for Tel Aviv, or at least practicing with them, because that was mostly what he did at the end of the day. I think that there was there wasn't that many patience for him by Coach Gudas back then, because everyone was expecting Vitor to come back, but everyone needs to understand that coming back from such an injury and being sidelined for over a year, or sometimes two, it depends. It's something that takes a lot from you. It's a big toll, whether it's the mentality, whether it's physically just getting into shape and then into game rhythm and game shape and practice shape. It's something that are two completely different things. And with Vitor, the funny thing was, as soon as he left Maccabi let him go exactly when he was ready to come back and make an impact. That was something that we saw already in his first game playing for Murcia back then, and Barcelona getting him. I know for a fact he's a great offensive talent, and that's something that I said in the previous episode of how and what he can do offensively. He's a great offensive weapon, and we talked about Barca's defense because they might have needed another guy, and they just announced not that long ago bringing back Moussa Diagne.
Yeah, and that to me makes me wonder Should we be waiting longer on Shane Lowell? Like, you know, is that move because maybe there's something on Shane Lowell we don't know about in terms of like maybe he isn't back as soon as people thought he was going to be back? Obviously, that's entirely speculation on my part, so Catalan media feel free to kill me for that assumption, but the timing does seem a bit curious.
So Barcelona survived for another day. Maccabi didn't quite manage to do the same. I watched the game, but I would like to hear your guys' thoughts about it first, about what happened with the Maccabi Zvezda game, before I'm going to shed some light with the way I experienced the same thing.
I believe that it was the difference between a team that plays as a unit and a team that depends mainly in the talent of the players. You can't change bad habits so fast. That's the bottom line. On the one hand, we had a team that knew how to do, and on the other hand, we had a team that is still a work in progress. And with Coach Bagatskis saying that in the end he asked from his players to foul and they didn't, it's just an indication that not everyone is on the same page in the team, at least not yet. And unfortunately for Maccabi, time is running out.
Yeah, it really is running out for them. I didn't catch this game in action. I only just saw the highlights in the box score. But it's the difference. Like, could you imagine a Radoncic team, especially this Radoncic team right now, not doing what they're told when it matters? Like, it's, again, this Zvezda story, they're now 10-8, it just keeps going. The stock of Dejan Radoncic just keeps going up. Like, right now there's 3 teams at 10-8. All 3 are in theory catchable, but, you know, I just can't see Zvezda dropping out of the playoffs right now.
Oh, I could not agree more on that one. And you know what? Since it was it was a much more important game for Maccabi, I think. There were 2 things that sums up this game perfectly, wraps it up real good, in my opinion. One of them was, I know that Joe Alexander was not, you know, the star material, not the, you know, flashiest player, not necessarily the leader or whatever. But when he was playing, Maccabi's defense was much more fluent. The entire game for Maccabi was much more fluent. Actually, coach put him in when the game was tied at 13 at the first quarter. And with Joe playing, Maccabi got up to a nice lead, nice and comfy lead. He went, taking him out with Maccabi leading 25-19. And then put him back again with Maccabi down 44-46. The next time he took him off, Maccabi were up by 4 points. And it was pretty much in that moment then where, you know, it kind of hit me. The decision making, not necessarily only with the players, but also coaching wise, this game, Bagatskis is a good coach. I have no doubt about it. I do think though that specifically on this game, when you see that something works, why change it? That was the first thing that was that wrapped it up for me that moment. The second thing was, did you guys saw the movie Semi-Pro with Will Ferrell, the basketball flick?
Amazingly, I've never seen the film, but I know the basic premise.
Well, there is this, he plays this guy who's also the GM, the player, whatever. He's doing everything inside the team, but there's this one particular scene where they are coaching the team to play a certain drill for all day long. That's all they're going through. That is their go-to drill, their go-to play when they need to get a quick bucket. You know, when time's running down, and there's no more time. That's what they're going for. And with Maccabi, there was this in a very strategic point of the game. There was a timeout that was taken by Coach Bagatskis, and there was this. The player was obviously for Drew Goodalock, and as soon as they broke the play, you know, Maccabi got stuck. Where was the second option on offense? Where was the third? What should they done? What should they done in that case? It looked like everything was a mess. They were very, very much, you know, they were feeling the pressure, and at the end of the day, it costed them. It cost dearly for them, and that was for me, anyways. You know, that specific thing that wrapped up the entire game for me. But Fener Pau, Ari said, you know, it's been quite a while, but under the radar. If you guys haven't noticed, but we did. Aris is spot on everything that has to do with Panathinaikos versus Obradovic, and vice versa if it's Obradovic hosting Panathinaikos. Aris, you were right again.
I don't know exactly what do you mean, but if you mean that Kalathis is the brain of Panathinaikos, it doesn't take to be a genius in order to to understand it. That's how you have to play against Panathinaikos. I believe that Obradovic, it's obvious that understood what most of the coaching staff know already in EuroLeague, and the bad news for Panathinaikos, the really bad news from that game is that it was proven that if one of their scorers is having a great game, like it happened with Mike James, it doesn't guarantee them that they will get the win and that everyone else will get going. That's the part, that's the key role that Kalathis has in the team, and without him it's almost impossible for the team to work properly.
What I meant was when we were talking about last week about this game, and last time we talked about Coach Obradovic coming to the Oaxaca, you were spot on. You were spot on also when Olympiacos lost to Bamberg, and etc. etc. I'm just saying you are doing this one better than us. That's for sure.
Thank you for your kind words. I hope that this will not change in the near future, because you never know.
And just to chime in on that game, I think it was the first time, and before people think I'm jumping the gun here, I'm not saying Fenerbahce are back. No. There's a lot more time for them to prove that. But it was the first time Fenerbahce this season really looked like the Fenerbahce of last season. There was the confidence, there was the fluidity, and just more importantly, it looked like a team that knew what it was doing. It wasn't just relying on the weapons there, it was thinking about how it actually used them. There was the clear rotations, there was the changing up from Obradovic. He was mixing that backcourt up after having his clear platoon situation with Bobby Dixon, James Nunnally, Kostas Lucas, Bogdan Bogdanovic. Mixes it up, just kept on bringing new weapons. And then, of course, the explosion of Ahmet Duverioglu. I saw the EuroHoops Turkey account get ahead of me on that one with Ahmet Duverioglu NBA vote hashtag. So good work, lads, on that. But great game from him. But it's the most Fener have looked this season. They need a lot more nights like this.
They sure do, and I agree with ours that Panathinaikos needs to find their answers about how they're going to cope in nights that Kalathis is just not there. Whether it's because someone is stopping him defensively in the perfect way possible, or simply for, it happens. Sometimes guys do not have the most perfect of appearances. It happens, and it's okay, and it's allowed, and it's, it is what it is. But another demolition, in a way, there was a game we all expected to see. We wanted it. You even said that you would like to drink a couple of beers with it. But at the end of the day, I mean, that game was done like pretty much from the tip off. Your experience, please share with us. How did you enjoy the Olympiacos Baskonia game?
I hadn't even got the first pint poured when the game was over as a contest. It was that quick. I hadn't even had a sup and the game was basically done. Now, I had said way earlier in the season that Baskonia were going to have one or two nights where they didn't show up because of the nature of their game. There's going to be a couple of blowouts. This wasn't one of the ones I thought was going to happen. I thought this was going to be a ding-dong battle. Credit to Olympiacos, tremendous performance. The defense just shut Baskonia down. We've been talking about Olympiacos' defense the last few weeks, and in that game we saw why, I think.
Well, Aris, what did you think? I mean, I said time after time about Kostas Papanikolaou, and he came big also in this game. It looks like as long as they are getting him, they are getting better and better.
It's not just about Kostas. Olympiacos is really prepared for the month of January because it's a very important month for the team. Not only EuroLeague-wise, there are also too many games with Panathinaikos for the Greek competition, the Greek Cup and the Greek Championship. To be exact, there will be a game, one more game at Oaxaca against Panathinaikos for the Greek League that may seal for Olympiacos the home court advantage throughout the playoffs. So I believe that it's only natural for Olympiacos to pick things up. And despite the fact that they got unlucky with Daniel Hackett, they have found a player in Waters who can really contribute. He's a pretty different player, a very different player to Hackett, but he has the experience, he has the thirst to prove that he belongs to the highest level, and he's trying his best on defense. Everything on Olympiacos starts from defense, and that's why you speak highly of Papanikolaou because he's the poster boy of the energy that the Olympiacos players must have in order to play that kind of defense. But there are very interesting side stories around Papanikolaou. There is Patrick Young, who is finally playing like everyone is expecting him to be. There is Kem Birch, who is one of the surprises in EuroLeague in terms of his adoption in the highest level. There is Yorgos Printesis, who is probably the best post player at this point in the league. I can't go on because it seems that at this point everyone at Olympiacos is improving. Vangelis Manzaris is picking up his offense. Spanoulis is having a great year as a creator. He passes best than ever in his EuroLeague career. Just yesterday, Nikola Milutinov had a career best in the Greek league with 6 assists. So it seems that Olympiacos is just warming up.
Well, I'd like to see where they can end up with, because last time, well, not last time, because we this is our first season of Sweet 16, but what I'm saying is last time we saw Olympiacos getting together like that and, getting great numbers from the local talent as much as from the foreign players coming. It looks like the sky's the limit for them. And here's the thought for all of us. Should the regular season ended today, the playoff matches we would have gotten, the playoff series would be CSKA Darussafaka, Madrid Zvezda, the Greek derby, like Olympiacos Panathinaikos, and Baskonia Fener. I mean, we could not, right now, ask for better playoffs.
Pretty much, no. I'd take that, to be frank about it. I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Okay, so that is it for the 14th minute warning, I think. Yeah. Up next, Scout's Notebook.
And now it's time for the Scout's Notebook, where we look back at key performances during the week in EuroLeague to see who stood out and why. Well, one of the big moves this week, it sort of takes a player essentially out of EuroLeague, for want of a way of phrasing it. Mike Zerbs is on loan. Maccabi have put him out to pasture, essentially. Moshe, what's the thinking here?
Well, I think it comes down to a few things. From the beginning of the season, I was with the team with Maccabi in the Diamantidis tournament. Everyone was happy, everything was so peaceful, everything was going nice and well, even though the team obviously didn't win the first game, but socially everything went great. And I think that from the very beginning, Mike kind of struggled getting into all the mentality in Tel Aviv. It was maybe kind of hard for him. And when a player, has these kind of issues off the court, and, obviously, socially, he had a great time with Zvezda last year. But this year, it was a bit different, adjusting to a new mentality. And then all the coaches, Maccabi didn't have a coach. Even when they appointed Erez Edelstein, he was not with them because he was with the national team. So everything started late. And for him, and I think for the entire club, as a matter of fact, it was it was a big snowball when things kept adding up and more and more and more. And with him, it started, out off the court, then it continued on the court, and it's a travesty, I think. It could have gone much better for him, and I think that it's a good move for both sides, for him to get back, get his confidence back and come back to Maccabi next year with the possibility of having a playmaker that might actually help him thrive. Aris, how did you see this move for Maccabi?
I don't know. I really don't know what Maccabi should do. It's obvious that they need a point guard, but I'm afraid that this is going to be one more lost season for the club, because they are year by year they are not the team that they used to be. Even with this personnel, in theory, they should have been better. They say that winning is a habit, and Maccabi for many years had this habit in every level, because Maccabi is obviously still winning in the Israeli National League, even if many teams are trying to knock them out. But in the past there was this notion that for every team that went to Tel Aviv that it will be very hard to get a win. I don't believe that this mentality now is still there. Everyone believes that Maccabi is a chance for them. It's a chance for a big win, and I don't know how this will change. It will only change by producing results. I don't think that something magical must happen. A player will come and everything will get fixed, or a coach or something. I believe that Maccabi has to work a lot, and unfortunately for Maccabi, the main issue is not the foreign players, like many believe. I'm afraid that the problem is the local talent, because we have not seen top level Israeli players being produced in recent years, and that's the main issue.
Just looking at that local talent issue, obviously people have mentioned the names like Sean Dawson before. Obviously you've seen Gal McKell come in, but even with that, like, you know, the options there, even if you look at those as well, you have those two maybe, that they're still really, really thin on the ground in terms of what you have. And obviously, like Dawson, like, there's no guarantee he works out at EuroLeague level even, like, so, you know, or certainly in the Maccabi system, like, the local player issue is an issue for several clubs. We've seen it with Fenerbahce before, obviously, but like, you've got to just find a way to solve it. Like CSKA Moscow, you look at Russia right now, it's not having its most amazing time for developing young prospects, but CSKA Moscow find a way to make their Russian players relevant. Maccabi needs to do that with its Israeli players, essentially.
Well, I agree that we don't have that many local talent, but there are a few unique cases that I've been watching closely, and one of them is the developing young point guard called Iftach Ziv. Is playing for Ashdod right now. He's a good kid. I mean, I think that, you know, in a year or two, maybe he's going to come to Maccabi. Maybe they will be able to put their hands on him and get him and, you know, see how they can develop him. But it's like Ari said, one of the biggest problems with Maccabi, and I think with the entire Israeli basketball, is you don't see very far away. Like long term, there's going to be we're expecting a few years, I'm guessing, until we're going to see the local talent rising again for that specific thing. But my question with the Zerbs incident, I know that it's a good decision for both sides, but if they're not bringing a player instead of him, then what does it really say? I mean, on the one hand, they keep saying that they haven't given up. There's still something to fight for, but they are not bringing anyone else. So it leaves us with a bunch of questions, but that's not the only thing we want to discuss. Come on, guys, where is the amazing run of Coach Radonjic going to end?
Right now, I think some of the guys in the Zvezda team are so pumped from working for him that they think they could beat the Warriors, in all seriousness. Like, Zvezda, there's nobody playing with more confidence in EuroLeague right now than this Zvezda side. And, you know, the Belgrade faithful were, I'm sure, delighted to see me pick Maccabi last week, because the last thing they wanted was me cursing their team. And, yeah, you know, they're just, again, it's discipline, it's organization. And his stock as a coach in terms of where he could go next season, whenever openings come up, like, he's going to be the most in-demand coach realistically in Europe come the end of the season.
That's a question that I don't think that can be answered. It's obvious that he's groomed for the next big step in his career, and he's learning, first of all, he's improving his English, as we know. But we will have to see what will be the EuroLeague openings, because it seems that, as it was expected, EuroLeague is becoming more and more the top tier club competition in Europe, and there are just 16 jobs, and there are not all of them open, and I don't know which one will be open. So I'm not sure that we can make a safe prediction at this point. We should just stay on the fact that he's one hell of a coach.
And he's going to be in a position, because of the way Zvezda are set up at the moment, he can say no and wait a year or two, because frankly, you know, he knows that whatever happens next season, people will go, right, well, he didn't have the same Zvezda team he had a year earlier or the year before that. His stock's still going to be very strong, so he can still go another year at Zvezda, or maybe two more, being realistic about it. But, you know, he can wait, and that's a serious luxury as a coach right now.
It's true that it's a serious luxury, but a team that doesn't have the luxury anymore is Barcelona, who announced that they've lost Brett Olsen for 5 weeks, it was, I think. I mean, guys, that's an epidemic. That is simply an epidemic with Barcelona losing him. It's till now we've seen him. We've seen Stratos Peperoglu. We've seen pretty much I think everyone. Paul Ribas. We've seen Navarro getting injured. Pretty much everyone on that roster.
It's legitimately quicker to count who hasn't been injured than who has been injured on the Barcelona team right now.
Yes, but the point with Barcelona is that despite all their misfortune and all the issues that they have, they are still alive. There is a 2 wins difference from the top 8 at the moment, but Barcelona is still on the run, and the main thing that they have to solve is that they need better decision making by Tyrese Rice. When Tyrese Rice is scoring, he's amazing, but in a team like Barcelona, he has also to make his teammates better. I believe that that's the main problem, because Barcelona has a deep roster. They have their issues, but they still have a deep roster, and maybe in some cases, as you can say also for Maccabi and Zirbes, retraction is better than addition. The fact that a player who was not part of the unit, like Joe Dorsey, is out of Barcelona will benefit the team. At least we have seen a reaction in the second game. Maybe the same can happen with Maccabi, and the resilience of Barcelona is obvious. We will have to see what will happen against Panathinaikos, but that's another story. Barcelona, despite all those misfortunes, is still not out, and this is a testament of the resilience and the character of the club.
And we saw it last season as well, where they looked like they were going to have a real tough time making the playoffs. They had that crazy OT win over Sheshka. They eventually came within a game making the Final Four.
That's a great example. And for every person, no matter where he works or for whom he works or she works, this could end up being one of the greatest stories of the season should they make it to the Final Four. Obviously, it's something that no one believes they can, deep down inside, no one believes they can do it, but it's like Ari said, they've showed resilience so far, and now they are within a playoff. They are within the playoffs fight, in my opinion. So as long as they keep fighting and they keep swinging for it with everything they got, they might be able to do that.
Okay, now let's start with our games of the week. Not just one game, because there are just too many, and we don't want to pick only one. And we will start with Athens, with Panathinaikos hosting Barcelona. It's a do or die game first of all for Barcelona, but also Panathinaikos needs to cement the position that they have in the standings and stay well above the line for the playoffs. And of course, the bonus, if they get to beat Barcelona, is that they will create more distance with one of the teams that they are trying to get in. The fact that also Coach Pasquale is hosting his former team in his new home, it makes things even more interesting, because if one coach knows well most of Barcelona's personnel, is Coach Pasquale. We expect Panathinaikos to try and bounce back. They have got the Greek Cup win against Olympiacos, but they were defeated in the EuroLeague with ease by Fenerbahce. In theory, we don't know yet if Chris Singleton will be able to play, and his absence will be a problem for Panathinaikos. We may see Perperoglu returning to action, and that will be also a problem for Panathinaikos. The bottom line is that this is a game with obvious implication in the standings, and that is the icing on the cake. We have a classic matchup and a lot in stake.
Last time these two teams met, there was obviously Barcelona ended up being the better team at the end of 40 minutes. They had a very nice game from one of my favorite players, Vezenkov, Sasha Vezenkov, with 12 points, 5 rebounds. But, Pau's performance back then was simply not good enough. Even with Nick Calates doing more on the offensive end in terms of scoring rather than passing the ball. But, to be honest, it's a different Panathinaikos now. They had their time with Coach Pascual, meaning they are much more in rhythm. They are much more they are communicating better. And obviously, Coach Pascual had the perfect time to prepare Panathinaikos, and they do look better since that game, obviously. But should Barcelona win this game, that could be a whole lot of trouble for Panathinaikos, because it would mean that at the end of the regular season, that Barcelona beat Panathinaikos twice, and should they go head-to-head with qualifying for the playoffs, it means that Barcelona would be on top of Panathinaikos, which is why this is going to be one of the, I think, greatest games of the week. And Emmett, what do you think about it?
Well, I think Xavier Pascual is thinking of two things when it comes to making the playoffs. One is a victory here gives him 3 games lead over Barcelona. That's no small thing at this stage of the season. And the other is retaining the home court advantage. Not so much in terms of making the playoffs, but realizing that the Owaka is essentially what Panathinaikos have to defend above all else. Like, their home court is what they need to lean on in this run-in, basically. Don't drop your home games between now and the end of the season. You probably make the playoffs. That's what he's got to focus on. These are the games they simply have to win. For Barcelona, a win's huge. It reduces the gap to the top 8 to a single game for them. And again, like Moshe was saying, gives them that guaranteed head-to-head advantage as well. So there's a lot at stake here. And another game which has less at stake, but a similar level of curiosity, I think it's fair to say, is Baskonia versus Crvena Zvezda. Zvezda, of course, coming on the high of that big, come from behind in many respects, win over Maccabi. Baskonia very much needing to rebound in this game is one way of putting it, after a horrific display against Olympiacos. I suppose, Moshe, start off with yourself there, given what you've seen what Zvezda can do, up close and in person.
I'm pretty sure that Zvezda would want to take down the rhythm, especially with Baskonia, who are known for their capability of scoring from pretty much every position. Both teams are very well coached. Obviously, the athleticism and the up-tempo game goes with Baskonia. So this game, we're in for a treat. Obviously, the advantage should go with Baskonia on this one. But as Zvezda taught us, we should not, and we will not rule them out, as long as the game is being played. Aris, I'm passing the ball to you. What do you think of it?
Well, this is a very interesting game. First of all, we have Baskonia, who is going to miss Tokos Ngela, who is the glue guy of the team. And on the other hand, we will have Crvena Zvezda without Dangubic. And Zvezda is not the deepest team in the league, so every absence counts. Baskonia just has to react after losing to Olympiacos. They have to get back on the horse, and they have to do this against one of the most dangerous teams in the league. And especially on the road, I don't believe that Zvezda has any kind of pressure. They can do their best, and nobody will pressure them or ask them to do something more if they came up with a defeat, especially in Spain. So what we really have to expect and see is the reaction of Baskonia. They did pretty well without Andrea Bargnani, and now with Bargnani back and with Laprovitola on the spot of Prigioni, there should be even more danger. And beating Crvena Zvezda will be a great start for them, because they need to get their streak back in EuroLeague. It will be a very interesting game to watch. A very interesting game, and Baskonia at home against any opponent is ready to explode at any moment and got not just a win, but also a very impressive showing. The Baskonia in general is producing great basketball this season.
Speaking of La Provitola coming to Baskonia, it's like the first question comes to mind is as if they really need another reinforcement to the also ever-going so deep roster of theirs. They are without a doubt by far one of the deepest teams and maybe even one of the most talented teams. But you know, even though they are talented, we do have to discuss at least one more game this week, and FS Dachka. Pretty much same scenario as Barcelona with Panathinaikos. FS got the upper hand the last time these two teams met. A win for them makes it one game difference between FS and Dachka and puts David Blatt's team, Coach Blatt's team, again, a whole lot of trouble.
Well, last week, Barcelona-Efes was a hot mess. This game just screams of it again. I see plenty of issues on both sides, but a lot of good basketball as well to keep it competitive as the game wears on. There is the massive element of need with FS here. Obviously, they do need a bloody win, to be blunt about it. And they also know that they get back within one game of the playoffs if they do it. So that's obviously a huge up for them. The question really with Blatt is, like, you know, consistency. Like, David Blatt's obviously a brilliant coach, but the question is, can he get the consistent week-to-week wins he needs out of his side? And this is a pretty good way of checking it, because it's not like FS is a cauldron to go to. Like, they haven't exactly the most intimidating fans. Can he go to FS, a team with support very similar in style to Dachka, it's got to be said, and can he get the W?
Ari's putting both rosters, you know, in front of another on paper. Where do you see, each team's advantage in what position?
It's a pretty big conversation because I believe that talent-wise they are very evenly matched. If I have to pick something, I will say in the small forward position that maybe Anadolu Efes has a little more versatility and a bigger advantage. But this is a very interesting game for two reasons. First of all, Anadolu Efes plays at home, and this is what makes a difference compared to the game of Panathinaikos against Barcelona. So any home win for this level of teams in EuroLeague is a big no. So Anadolu Efes has to win, and also there is a second characteristic that applies to some occasions and only to Spanish, Greeks and Turkish teams. Sorry, this is the fact that they have a history already in their domestic league, and Anadolu Efes is leading the league alongside Fenerbahce. So there is a different approach in this game because the situation is quite different between the two teams in their local league. Anadolu Efes may be outside of the playoffs for the moment in the EuroLeague, but they are in a much better condition in their domestic league, and I believe that mentally this helps in this case Anadolu Efes.
Yep, I agree with that. And just before we go with this episode, the 10th episode of Sweet 16, one sentence on the Unix versus Fener game. I know it's not a game of the week. It's not maybe the most attractive game, but need I remind you guys, last time these two teams met, Unix, I think, were the first team to beat Fener. And we do know that Unix, on their home court, they will drag you to their kind of basketball, which is at times not the most prettiest things you've ever seen, but maybe efficient.
One line, no Udo, no problem, Fener win.
The bottom line is simple in this game. Fenerbahce has every reason to believe that they can win this game. Of course, you can expect the unexpected in this kind of EuroLeague, but with the regular season slowly going to an end, I don't see how Fenerbahce will underestimate Unix Kazan and will make the same mistake like they did in the previous contest.
Well, I'm also going with Fener, but the reason I've mentioned this game is simply for Anthony Bennett. I want to see him play. That's it. So, that's it for the 10th episode of Sweet 16, an open look on EuroLeague basketball, because well, this week in particular, every day will look as if it was EuroLeague day, which it really is. As always, I'm Moshe from Team Scout, available on Moses B1. I am Team Scout and TeamScout.net. Look me up on Team Scout. Aris, when they can look you up.
Try the internet, Google me, or just look at Twitter with the handle Arbarkas. The rest, try every EuroHoops social media and of course the site.
And you can find me on ballineurope.com, at BIE_basketball, Facebook.com/ballineurope, and for this weekend only on Irish television doing the Irish Cup finals that will probably be streamed worldwide. Just to warn you in advance, the commentary is mixed between Irish and English, and I'm speaking Irish, so as ever, you won't understand a word I'm saying.
Well, don't forget to follow us on SoundCloud, EuroHoops TV on YouTube, and obviously on all related media. Till next time.
Sweet 16. An open look on
EuroLeague basketball.
Covering 16
EuroLeague teams.
Gonna be sweet. Sweet 16.